Okay.
Chupacabra build, number 30 or so. Back from our vacation, had a wonderful time in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. Got a plan, got a direction on this thing. If you remember last, had a fuel leak on this chassis after the glue manufacturer told me it was fuel proof, and after it had a Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard rating on it. They're still arguing over that, and it's still not doing me any good at all. So I don't see any way around it. We're going to have to build a new chassis. I could salvage this chassis. It's plenty salvageable. It's just not the way I want to present car number one. This chassis has been on eBay just the way it sits. I can either tear it completely apart, use some parts on the other car, or just as easily, if I can get my money back out of them, I can mail order new parts in here and just build another one. But either way, tank's going to have to be worked on. It's been suggested that I replace the spare tire, which isn't that necessary with the tank up here, which anybody buying the chassis, that's a simple, easy fix. Bladders going in here, that can be done as well on this one, but all of this is going to have to come out to be able to get the bladder in. Most of it's wiring harness, cables, so forth. It's kind of more of a nuisance than a problem, but it's just not the way I want to present chassis number one. So I'm going to start over on that. A couple of things before we get into the build progress. Got back from Puerto Rico, had a wonderful time. If you'll notice on the 30 videos or so before this one, we repeated a shirt for the first time on, I think, number 29. Probably could have gone a couple more videos, but kind of lost track of what shirts were and were not on videos. So, stocked up while I was in the Caribbean, one of my new ones here, and we're good for 8 more videos, so got shirts coming. Second thing, while we were in Puerto Rico, we were privileged to some VIP credentials to the Air Force Thunderbirds Air Show. Very, very cool thing. We were at ground zero with them, where all of the ground crew is, where all the commentators, the choreography, all of that is staged from. There's about probably 20 ground crew that travel with them that do all that. It's a very cool thing. Speaking of stuff like that, I have a win-win proposition for everybody. Next time you're in a restaurant, in an airport, on an airplane, whatever, there's military personnel in uniform, just quietly tell the flight attendant or wait staff that you'll pick up the tab for their drink or meal or whatever. If you do that and enjoy it, do it again, but here's the win-win. If you do that and didn't like it, send me the tab and I'll reimburse you for it and pay you a couple of bucks for your trouble. But the jet noise sound of freedom goes a long way back for me, all the way back to my father, when we were sitting around the go-kart track bench racing, and I told everybody I thought we might be able to do one of those NASCAR races, or some kind of big race. Jody says, "How big a race do you want to be in?" I thought about it a while, and I said, "One big enough where the jets fly over to start it." So the first race at Texas Motor Speedway, the Craftsman truck race, when the jets flew over and they had the Texas flags on the tail, and they were T-38s from Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas, and my father's base and home of 82nd Tactical Training. Ever since then, at every race, I tear up a little bit when the jets fly over. Now back to a build now. This is our new tank. This is what I built. Same origami type deal. There's actually only four pieces. These baffles are a piece. The top is a piece. All of this is a piece. This side, the bottom, see how that folds there? That folds up. I haven't folded that one yet because I want to be able to plastic weld all that. It'd just be in the way if I folded it now. This is a polyethylene tank. It was CNC cut, exact same techniques, exact same deal. You can see the dog bones right here that have not gone together yet. Exact same origami type construction that we used on our aluminum composite material. Very, very pleased with the way this came out. Waiting to get the plastic filler neck that's on order. Ordered a piece of 1.5-inch diameter stuff for that. Waiting to get that before we send it to the plastic fabricator and weld it together. Learned quite a bit, got a crash course in plastics over the last couple of weeks. This is HDPE, high density polyethylene. It's polypropylene, ABS, PVC, a bunch of different plastics, but this is the generic plastic. It's vacuum formable, it's cuttable, it's machinable, it's plastic weldable. The cost is very competitive, and it is fuel resistant and for the most part totally chemical resistant. So this was a 4x8 sheet that we cut on the CNC machine. We had originally intended to vacuum form this thing in two halves, right through here like this, put the two halves together and weld it together. But what I came to realize was we're introducing the plastic as a material into the project. We're introducing plastic welding into the project. We've already got all that. The vacuum form really doesn't do anything. I can CNC it and fold it up as easy as I can build a form and pay to have the vacuum forming outsourced. So here's what we've come up on the tank. I think weight-wise, we're not going to add hardly anything to the chassis because I've been able to lighten up some other places. The bottom is the polystyrene sandwich of the chassis that goes under here as opposed to the 1/4-inch aluminum plate, some things like that. Also, this is about a $50 sheet of plastic. It's going to cost another $100 to have it all welded up. I'm not wanting to try that welding myself. I'm frustrated enough with tanks that don't hold fuel, so I'm not going to trust myself to weld it, although there are plastic welders available on the market. It takes like $60-80 worth of tank sealer, which didn't work either, to do that. So cost-wise, we're right in line with this, with what we had. Price-wise, we're right in line. Parts-wise, actually, we're right in line as well, even though we've introduced 4 more parts here. Let's talk about this right here a second. I'll come back to that. This is kind of a funny looking detail right here. This is just an aluminum tube. This is not the plastic filler, or plastic tube, but I wanted to show you kind of how that is, and it seemed kind of odd for this to be like this, but it's got to stay up at the same height because it's very critical to come between my sway bar and the bottom of my dash, something like that right there, the way the filler's going to go on here. But we're going to use a flexible filler, and where on this one, we've got, this is a piece of the radiator hose stuff, steel, stainless, and you got multiple pieces. You got 4 1.5-inch hose clamps and so forth to get a fuel filler in there. This is actually a flexible filler, and once it's welded in here, when we come up here, we can put it on the fuel cap right here like this. We've eliminated every bit of this, and we've got one hose clamp on there. there. So that some kind of satisfaction in that. Yeah, we added a few pieces, but we got rid of a bunch of hose clamps, a bunch of connections, and so forth. So kind of happy about that. This will go into this old chassis. Anybody interested in purchasing this old chassis, I can build a tank and it'll go in it, no problem at all. So again, I'm selling that on eBay. Actually, the auction ended and it didn't meet the reserve, but I was trying to sell it complete. I'd sell it, less the drivetrain, or once I've got it stripped down, I'll sell a bare chassis. But anybody buying that chassis know that the front deal as well as this tank right here can go in it. It can be made into a perfectly good chassis. It's just not the way I want to present car number one. Bottom, there's going to be a few little subtle changes in the next chassis. You always learn a few little things as you go on. Bottom of the tank comes up just a little bit. I think we may be able to use 1 3/4 radiator hoses underneath it instead of 1.5 inches. This goes inside there, so obviously we lost a little bit of fuel. I was very pleasantly surprised when I found out it was only 19.5 gallon capacity as opposed to 20. We only lost a half a gallon of fuel doing all this, and then you ask, well, why don't you move that back down and stay with an 1.5 inch tube and get your half gallon back? Well, the answer is that this is one sheet of 4x8. This, and this is all one piece. The dimension from here to here to here to here is 47 7/8 inches. If I got my 1/8 of an inch back, that'd be 48 1/8 inches, 1/8 inch on both sides, and it doesn't work. So we sacrificed a half a gallon of gas in this thing. I want to show you something else too on this. We talked about, I know in previous videos, about how I changed the, you all right? Talked about how we changed, one time I changed a muffler clamp and I wound up having to change the gas pedal. Come around here and let me show you something else. Yeah. These right here, the carpet pattern, there's a dog bone right here that is this baffle right here. Well, now the baffle doesn't go there. There's no dog bone there. There's no excuse for that carpet to be like that, which is decent looking, but I can make it kind of a cooler design if I don't have that limiting factor. So without that, we're redesigning the carpet pattern. When we do that, we're going to redesign, see the floor mat down here? And that floor mat, instead of gluing on top of the carpet, it's going to have its own coffer down there to go in instead of gluing on the top. But anyway, that's going to rearrange that. It's going to rearrange the angle and so forth. So here's another case of redesigning a fuel tank. How much? Oh, 13. Redesigning a fuel tank has actually changed the carpet pattern. Now, who would have thought that? Let's see something here. You know what? That's almost 15 minutes there. Let's make 2 videos out of this. Let's stop right there and we'll do another one.